Hey everybody, Henry Fernandez here. Welcome to another podcast. I am so grateful that you are connecting with me on this platform as we dive into some very important topics that I believe will help us to live a better life. Today I want to talk to you about put the time in. What do I mean by that? If you really want success in every area of your life, it's important that you put the time in, invest into yourself, do what is necessary at this season of your life to reap in the future what you desire. So I'm going to walk you through a few steps today to help you to understand that it's not good enough for you to just dream or declare things, especially if you're a person of faith. We hear so much about declarations, right? Declare, say it, confess it. And I believe all of those things must be done. However, it's very important that you understand that you have to put some work into what you're confessing. So you got to put the time in. It's going to be very practical in our discussion today. And I would just hope that if you are in agreement with me, make your comments and so forth. But you got to put the time in, man. If you really want to see success in your personal life, let's talk about that for a minute. I'm not talking about, you doing stuff for people, doing for your children, doing for your spouse, doing for your community and so forth. We must do that. We're called to be servants or to serve others. I believe that. But let's talk about you for a moment. What are you dreaming of? What's your dreams? What's your desires? What are you hoping for in the future? How do you want to improve yourself? What are the things you want to do for you? I know it may sound really odd and like, for me? I mean, I can't think about myself now. I have to think about my children, my spouse. Listen to me. What are you going to do for you now? Are you hoping that, you will advance in your career? Are you hoping that you will set yourself up now so that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when you retire or turn the business over to a family member or, one of your descendants or whomever it may be, that you can live a good quality of life? I can't tell you how many times I have witnessed so many people who have given so much to people, whether it's their spouse, their children, their parents, given so much to their inner circle, whether it's family or close friends, associates, companies. And at the end of the day, when they can no longer render those services, there's nobody there for them. Why? Because they never made preparation, if you will, for their day. Listen, everybody's day is coming. Did you just hear what I just said? Everybody's day is coming. Your day for you to chill and for you to relax to the point where the things you're doing now, you're not going to be able to do it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40, 50 years from now. You're not going to be able to do it. So what are you doing with your time now to set yourself up for a brighter future? Don't ever forget that you are here on this earth just for a season. Just for a season. You are actually in your career for a season. And I know many of you are not going to like this. You're actually in that responsibility of you being a spouse or a parent for a season. Listen, you're not going to parent your children forever. After a while, your kids are going to grow up Ask me how I know. My last kid just turned 18, and they're going to take on a path of their own. So, and they will let you know, hey, I'm grown now. Come on now, I'm grown. you know, Spouses will pass away, or you may have a breakup. Maybe the relationship don't work. So what are you going to do? What are you doing today to invest in you? To invest in your health. And when I say your health, I'm not just talking about eating right and exercising and so forth, because there's a whole lot of people who are exercising. Their diet is very healthy, but mentally they are a mess. Mentally, they are a total mess. They're full of negativity, full of distrust. They're toxic. So, even though they are healthy, they're doing well and so forth, but mentally they can't be around anybody. And I tell you what, as they get older, one thing I learned with people is you do them something today, there's a lot of people who will never forget the wrong. And my parents used to say this, especially my mom, don't you ever burn the bridges that you're crossing, because you may need to go back and cross over that bridge again. Don't do that. So you got to put the time in. What do I mean by that? You have to invest in yourself and say, okay, what do I need to do to set myself up now so that in the future I will reap from the seeds that I've sown? Seeds of, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to empower myself, whether it may be going back to college, achieving that certification. I don't know who I'm talking to. Well, maybe you just need to go, especially if you're single. You need to invest in yourself, because the same time you took to procrastinate and keep putting it off, time is quickly passing. It's the same time you could have taken advantage of and just do it. And just do it. Put in the time in. It may be difficult now, but say, I'm going to get it done, man. I'm just going to go get the degree. Perhaps it's starting that business. Maybe it's going to a training, self-development training to equip yourself, and so forth. I'll tell you, even in my personal life, starting out, as a young preacher, a young spiritual leader, I didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing. I'm telling you, I remember one Sunday in that little cafeteria in Plantation, the city of Plantation, when we started the church. I remember standing on that stage one Sunday and I said these words, look, we're in this together. It's a new church, new adventure. And honestly, I told them this. I said, and I don't know what I'm doing. It takes a sincere person to be honest. Sometimes I think many of us, we try to present ourselves to people. I know what I'm doing. And sometimes that's what's hurting us. Because anytime you present yourself like, I know what I'm doing, back off, don't teach me now, I don't need to know nothing from you, you turn people off that could possibly help you. So I was upfront with the church. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been a pastor before. I'm going to need your help. Let's do this together. I wonder how many of you in your relationship right now that you're acting like you know what you're doing. You know how you're loving. You know what you're doing. To you, you're all in your self-righteousness. You think that that person is wrong, you're right, and you know what you're doing. And you don't want counseling. And instead of saying, you know what, let me swallow my pride, put the time in to invest in me. Okay, I'm not going to blame my spouse now. Let me go check me out. Let me see if I could see and be open for that person, that counselor, that advisor, to say to me where I have issues, the areas I need to improve at and fix those things and put the time in so that years later, the blessing that God has for you in that relationship, both of you can enjoy, watch this, the seeds that you have sown. Think about that. If you're thinking that one day you want to, become the manager, the supervisor, you want to reach the highest level in your company or the company that you work at, you got to put the time in now. You can't just keep talking. Well, I want to do this and I want to reach this height. I want to achieve these things. You got to make some sacrifices now. And maybe that's where the problem is right now. A lot of you just struggle with the idea that you got to make sacrifices now. You're not prepared for that because there's a saying, you want your cake and you want to eat it at the same time. You want to enjoy what you're hoping for right now, even though you haven't put the work in. You got to go to the seminars, the workshop, and back to what I was saying, I had to put the time in. I had to go to certain, workshops, conferences, seminars, and it was costly. I had to put a lot of time in. I had to build relationships with people that I trust, people that have been there, have a track record, people who I can listen to, I can become vulnerable to, and expose my insecurities and expose, if you will, my ignorance. Because sometimes we pretend like we know everything. So we build up this wall to impress people. I know it when sometimes we're ignorant. We don't know. And it's difficult at times for us to just look at a person and say, I don't know. Like as you're doing life, there are many people when it comes to their finances, they don't know how to handle money. They won't admit it. In fact, some of you right now already, you just heard me make that statement in your heart. You're like, I know how to do it. If you know how to do money and manage it well, why are you in that financial situation? Come on now, let's be honest. There's no way you are doing a good job and in that kind of a condition. But here's the problem. You've tried it your way over and over, and the more you delay getting the help, putting the time in for somebody to teach you, is the more you are digging a hole further, deeper and deeper. And it's just a bad situation. It's going to take you years to climb up out of it. So you got to put the time in now. The time in now to say, let me lean to people and resources that can help me. Are you getting that so far? It's a personal thing. You put the time in. I'm talking to some people, my goodness, you've got some real great dreams, but you got to put the time in. I can honestly say at the age of 56 going to 57, I can honestly say I'm really seeing the benefits of my consistency, my willingness not to give up, not to quit, not to panic, not to allow the systems of the world and the trends of our society to cause me to abort the mission of my life. I knew what I wanted out of life. I knew what God called me to. I knew how unique I am, my call-ins, my gifts. And therefore, I stayed on course. I really focused on what God had for me. There were a few times I wavered, but thank God I was able to get back on track, and I put the time in, the sacrifice, put the time in. For example, I remember for a good, I would say, perhaps, let's see, 10 years. Yeah, 10 years of the ministry. You know, I started ministry at 27. I had my first child at 37. And it's not that I didn't want kids. You know, I wanted, but we just it couldn't happen, you know. And I tell you what, for 10 years, the 10 years when we weren't able to have children, for those 10 years, I remember as the pastor of the church, I put the time in that I know if I was a parent at that time, I could not invest that much in the church. I did a lot. In fact, my time, I was devoted at the church. We did a lot of constructions and renovation and a lot of planning and training. Oh, I am a sticker for that. I am committed to training my staff, volunteers or paid staff, to get the DNA of God in them, right? I did all of that. I mean, I did a lot. So when we started having children, and I realized that my time, it was consumed with being a father and so forth, I was able to step back, right, of some of my responsibility because it was like on automatic. It was autopilot now because I put the time in. I didn't wait until I needed certain things to function to then say, let me put the time in for it to work. No, I sowed the seeds of my abilities years into the ministry so that when I became a father, I could step back. Watch this. I could appoint people who I've trained over the years. I trust you. Hey, you do this. You do that. It's okay. Even if you fail, I'm here to guide you. I'm not afraid of my staff doing things wrong, just as long as they own up to it and they're willing to do better, right? So I put my time in, and you got to do that. You listen. The time you have right now is so precious. It's so precious. And I wish you could see your future. I wish you could see the opportunities that God has before you right now, man. You wouldn't waste any time. Put the time in. Perhaps you're a single person. Maybe you desire to have a spouse one day. What are you doing now to set yourself up for a healthy relationship, a successful relationship? So as a man, what time are you putting in, or what are you putting in your time to make you a better man? I mean, who are you hanging out with? Are you talking to men who have successful marriages, who've been through issues with their spouse, but God worked it out? Are you trying to find out the ups and downs of marriage? Are you fixing yourself? Are you fixing your emotions? Are you working on your personality? Are you working on your financial life? Are you making sure that you're taking the time, you're putting the time in now as a man, the leader, to say, okay, let me train myself. Let me find out what are the needs of women, how to better communicate to a woman, how to identify a good woman versus a challenging woman. Okay, put the time in now because you can find out, put the time in to repair your credit if your credit is bad. Because later when you get connected with a lady, it's not wise for your credit to be bad. And, her credit is bad too. Or if her credit is good, you're going into something now where if she gets married to you and you start mixing finances together, your past actions of not paying your bills, or you just end up in a bad situation, so you couldn't pay your bills on time, your credit is ruined, can also affect her life. And you have to remember, no woman should come into your life and make it worse than what it was before she met you. Likewise, you should not enter into a woman's life and make it worse. Come on now. Your job is to secure that woman, is to help her, is to love her unconditionally, and to be there for her. Listen, I understand women are independent today, and thank God for them. They're advanced in society. I get that. But the average woman wants a man who she's secure in. Anytime a woman is trying to dominate a man, belittle a man, all that kind of a stuff, it's a damaged woman. She's insecure and she's damaged. There's always an underlying reason behind that. Hello? There's always an underlying reason behind what that woman is doing. Either, like I said, she's coming from a background, there's a lot of drama and issues there, or she's just broken. But the average woman wants a man who can come, be a man, stand up, give her the comfort of knowing that he's got a plan and he's willing to put the time in for the plan. That's it. I mean, they're great people. We can see David, listen, I understand, yes, God sent the prophet Samuel to go and anoint David to be king. David was a young boy at the time when he got anointed, but he didn't sit in the king's chair the day he was anointed. No. And you have to understand, David put the time in. By the way, his brothers were in the house, but according to scripture, David was out in the field. He was putting the time in, preparing himself for kingship. So brothers, what are you doing now to prepare yourself for leadership? I will not trust a leader who is not trained. I would not trust a leader who is inexperienced. No, I cannot, especially when there's a lot at stake. At our ministry, we have a great succession plan for this church because it's not built on me. I don't want when I am, in my senior years and I pass away and so forth, I don't want to know that all of this that we've invested in the kingdom of God and followed God's plan, that it dies with me. No. So therefore, I'm putting my time in, training people. So whoever takes over this church is not going to be a novice. I made sure whoever takes over this church has to have some level of experience. You never want to give an inexperienced pilot a 737, 747, or the A800 the Airbus series a plane to fly. You don't want to do that. That's risky. You want to give experienced people an opportunity to use their skills at the level of their training. It's the same way. A woman who has invested in herself all these years, gone to college or trade school and got her diploma, or got her degree, and repaired her credit, worked on her personality, her image. Women are so devoted to their image. She's worked on all of that. She's worked on her emotions because she was traumatized by past relationships and issues with her family and so forth. And now she's gotten to a place of, okay, I'm okay now. She is going to protect her destiny. So she doesn't want an inexperienced man to come into her life to ruin the foundation of what she has constructed her life on. And the same is true for men. Men don't want a woman who hasn't put the time in to develop her character, to develop her womanhood, to develop her personality as a woman. He doesn't want to, after whether he's been in past relationships before, or a visionary one who's passionate and so forth. He doesn't want a woman who has no experience of putting the time in to come into his life, because all she's going to do is she's going to ruin his destiny. Hello. So you got to put the time in. Put the time in to discover the opposite sex. Know what are the needs of the opposite sex. Come on now. You have to understand, what does a man need? What does a woman need? You know, how do you connect? Men needs to understand, how do you really tap into a woman? Now I understand that. Don't throw anything at me. You don't understand, Henry. Some women, I told you, they're broken and you can never understand them. I mean, you could go buy them this, treat them this, speak to them well, and so forth. They're just broken. They can't do nothing. They got serious issues. I get that. But you have to get to a place where you put the time in. And of course, the time, when you put the time in, that time will kind of help you to understand that, that's not what I'm looking for. I deserve better. So put the time in. Work on your image. Work on your personality. Work on your future. Work on where you want to go. It's one thing to dream, but okay, what are you going to do to ensure that your dreams will become a reality? If you want to one day buy a house, or you want to retire well and so forth, what are you doing? You got to put the time in now. You got to put the time in. If you want to open a business and maybe you're working at a company now, you want to do the same thing that they're doing, but you want to own it. If you're not putting the time in, if you're doing your own thing and paying attention to everything else that you're not called to, how do you expect to be an expert in that area? Think about it. So put whatever, I don't know what you desire in the future. What I'm saying to you, you got to put the time in. Don't be anxious for anything. Dream big, but put the time in. There's some stuff that I'm believing God for when I get to 70. So therefore, I'm putting the time in now, and stay on that path. That's it. Putting the time in now. So hopefully this discussion today was a blessing to you. It helped you to understand that investment will produce dividends. Yes, you will reap from the seeds you sow. So what kind of harvest are you looking for? You need to look at the seeds that you're sowing, the timing of your seeds. Are you sowing anything at all? Because you cannot want apple, but you're sowing grape seeds, mango seeds. It doesn't work that way. So thanks again for hanging with me today. I pray that you'll make a comment, share this with someone. Tell me how this has helped you. I really appreciate you connecting with me. Please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really need you to do that. Henry Fernandez. Just look me up on YouTube and subscribe, because anytime I go live with a video, even when it comes to the podcast, when I send it out, you'll be the first to be notified. All right, thanks again. I'll see you next time on another podcast.